this episode of My Cat's Tale, CokeZero.
This seems like the right time. This seems like the right cat now. I'm gonna go meet them. We bought this little grumpy cat toy. Still, to this day, it's her favorite toy. The thing that just kind of perplexes me about her is she just has these like very muscular shoulders.
Joining us now on My Cat's Tale, a cat with many names going on here. So I'm going to skip over the naming and just go to Kira, who CokeZero seems to be the obvious name, the one that we can find him on the internet, but a many-named cat who has many adventures.
Yep. Yeah, she's probably best known as CokeZero, which, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for her, she doesn't, speak English. So as far as I know, so she doesn't know kind of why we call her that, why we call her other things, why we call her Moko. There's a lot going on that she's probably not privy to.
Right, so I've got the list here. There's Moko is in there, CokeZero is in there, Cork is in there, Cake is in there. Kokomo, which just sounds like a missing album from the Beach Boys, is in there as well. Why are there so many names?
So her, we kind of laughed at this when we first adopted her. And she was a 4 or 5 month old kitten. And we're watching her, in her new home, thinking like, what are we going to name this cat? And my husband, actually. I don't think we were engaged at the time. Anyway, my partner, he goes, what if we named her CokeZero? I'm like, And we kind of thought about it. I was like, that'd be pretty funny. Cause I do like kind of silly pet names in general. So it kind of fit the prompt. And I was like, but she really should have, a real name, like a proper name. So we kind of settled on the idea that CokeZero was her sort of her what would you call it, like her actual name, but her real name would be Kokoro, which is heart in Japanese, or like spirit, or it just has a nice little, just a kind of like happy energy to it. But yeah, it sounds like CokeZero, and yeah, we just thought that fits her. So then naming her CokeZero, pretty silly. We decided, as she kind of grew up, we discovered that like us, she was very into wrestling. She liked to like wrestle toys. She now likes to wrestle her little sister. And so the joke came up that that's her ring name, that her little alias for when she's in the wrestling ring. Yeah, and then we came up with a bunch of little, actually people on the internet came up with a lot of the sort of silly nicknames, like calling her Cake, or Conk or Cork, or like whatever. And it was really funny, just after I'd made her account online, how many funny like little nicknames she got. But Moko is a funny one, because I don't remember when it started happening, but my husband started calling her Moko, and I was like, oh, that's so sweet, because so in Japanese, Moko Moko means sort of like a fluffy or soft, it's like a onomatopoeia to indicate like fluffiness or softness. And I was like, that's so cute. It's true. She is very fluffy and soft. And then it came to be like, we were talking about it later on, and I found out that he was actually calling her Moko, because it means booger in Spanish. And he was calling her like snot girl, booger girl, because she gets gunky eyes and stuff like that. I think he was joking about that. But yeah, that was a fun misunderstanding. And then Moko really kind of caught on. So I think I call her that probably the most out of all of her different names.
I suppose CokeZero makes it quite hard to do merchandise and everything if you ever wanted to go down that route. And search terms must be hard. Search for the cat CokeZero. It's just like, is there a soft drinks company out there going, why is our SEO not working?
I wonder about that, because we actually get a ton of unfortunately, it's usually when people are angry about something. But I think people go on Twitter and they just sort of type in at Coke or even at CokeZero. And so the CokeZero's Twitter handle is CokeZero Cat, which I thought would be kind of clear enough. But people definitely tag her in a lot of complaints about the company, about, availability in their local shop. A whole lot of complaints towards Coca-Cola that get directed towards CokeZero. Unfortunately, it is kind of funny. And then my favorite one that happened was, as I mentioned, we have this lore that she's a professional wrestler. And those of you who know professional wrestling probably know JR, the announcer, pretty well known guy. But he got on one day and he was talking about a meal he was going to have with it was like something and eggs, and it was talking about like his ideal. It was maybe a brunch or something, and he actually tagged CokeZero the cat rather than the drink. So it was great because it gave me an opportunity to respond with a little picture of CokeZero with her wrestling title belt. Just popping in on JR's mentions.
What wrestling weight is she? Do wrestling weights in the same way as boxing weight?
They're like, I think there's actually a few that are, I think don't quote me on this. I'm not actually 100% sure, but I think some of them are the same and some of them are like exclusively wrestling or exclusively boxing. Like I don't think they ever use the term in pro wrestling like featherweight. I don't think that exists, but they have like there was like a division called the cruiserweight division that was like I think it was under 205 pounds or something. But I think Coke's a heavyweight. Coke must be a heavyweight. She's a big cat. She's a little on the chubby side, but really the thing that just kind of perplexes me about her is she just has these like very muscular shoulders and like really like when you hold her, like her, I feel like most cats, at least most cats that I've interacted with, they like melt. They're kind of liquidy, and like you pick them up around the tummy and they just kind of like hang, and they're just soft and kind of like their bones seem like they're not all there. CokeZero is just really dense. She's really, really like when you pick her up around the stomach, like you can feel that she has like abdominal muscles. It's really strange. So I think she's definitely a heavyweight.
Going out just quietly, just doing the exercises, bulking up, and then Bluberry comes into the house, and Zero must be thinking, "Oh, right then, okay, sparring partner," because
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
we have another side to the story as well. Because you can't be a wrestler without having somebody to wrestle with.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it was funny because we kind of thought when we first adopted CokeZero, we thought she might, end up being friends with our dogs. We have two little Chihuahuas. We thought, she might hang out with them. I don't know. She turned out really not to like enjoy spending time with them very much. She'll sometimes occasionally kind of like do this like very reluctant cuddle with one of them, the smaller Chihuahua. But she kind of in general just doesn't really want to hang out with them. And so we noticed that she was getting kind of lonely. That was actually the impetus for us deciding to adopt another cat, but which turned out to be Bluberry. Um, and we were like, well, let's like observe what she's doing. And so we noticed that she was kind of sort of, it's a funny dichotomy because she's she's the she's the big wrestling girl, but she's also she kind of would do these things like holding her toys like babies, kind of where like a mother cat would hold the little like scruff on a little kitten and like carrying them around and like grooming them and stuff. And we kind of thought, well, this is maybe she would actually do well with like a little kitten that she can sort of treat like a child. So we ended up finding Blueberry at one of the local rescues. And I was like, this is probably, I think this is the perfect cat. Because it was Blueberry and a few of her siblings had been rescued, apparently just from like somewhere in the desert. And their mom was nowhere to be found. They were kind of feral. And she was like, I think she'd had some kind of I can't remember exactly what the story was, but she was on antibiotics. She was not really super healthy, had a little cone on that was bigger than her body, because she was only 7 weeks old, I want to say. Um, and her siblings would just like avoid her or like bully her. Like one of them, while I was visiting them, just like walked up to Blueberry and slapped her in the face through the cone, and it was so sad. I was thinking, oh no, Blueberry needs, a big sister to guide her through this life. And we ended up adopting her, did the really like slow introduction, which I really recommend to anybody who's getting a new pet,
So starting in two
with an
separate
existing
rooms
one.
and then just a little bit of
Yeah,
scent exchange and just working it through. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. We used a baby gate, so they kind of could like smell each other for a little bit. We'd have them like eat dinner next to each other just so that they would associate it with
yeah,
something
either side of
good.
the gate though. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, either side of the gate, and we had a blanket over it at one point, like slowly kind of pulling it up every few days. And they ended up. Coke was really mad at first. She was really not happy that we had adopted a new cat, and she was just really she didn't want me to like pet her anymore. She really was grumpy for like a good 2 weeks, and it worried me. And then one day they were just cuddling. They were like in their little bed together, just hanging out. And yeah, and Coke immediately um started like getting Blueberry into wrestling. Like she would just like randomly walk up to her and tackle her. And she one of our friends who cat sits for them occasionally, he told us that he saw Coke do like sort of like a perfect suplex on Blueberry. This was when she was obviously much smaller, but she sort of, I guess, Coke grabbed her around the waist and just like lifted her off the floor and like and just knocked her on the ground. I mean, they like to play pretty rough, and Blueberry is not innocent there either. She likes to just surprise Coke and bite her, and but they've never actually injured each other. That we're very careful about making sure that they're just. But cats, I mean, cats really like to just kind of beat the crap out of each other every few days, I feel like.
And is Blueberry that a liquidy cat as opposed to one who's
Yes.
built broad across the shoulders?
Yeah, she's super liquidy. We joke that she's like not actually a cat, because we'll catch her in these poses where we're just like, what's going, like that doesn't seem like it really works with your anatomy. And like she's really long. Like kind of unsettlingly long. Like her limbs are all very long. Her tail is long. She kind of has like a small head. So she looks very like if you were to imagine like an alien that was trying to be like, what does a cat look like? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm gonna like try and masquerade as one. That's sort of what I feel like Blueberry's vibes are.
All the bits of the cat are there, but just not necessarily in the right proportions.
Right, not they're not quite right.
But we love our not quite right cats because they are quite right, aren't they?
They are. Yeah, they're I always say like it's really not an exaggeration to say that I think, you know, Blueberry came second, so it's kind of like just a boost, but CokeZero really like was one of the things that saved me and helped me out of a really really hard time in my life. And so I'm I don't think I'm exaggerating to say that she kind of saved my life, um, by coming into it at the time that she did, and being just a really good friend.
There's something powerful about the companionship that you can get. Even though cats are just like, yeah, I'm going to turn my back on you now. It's just like they are still there for us.
They're still there, yeah, and I think about this the kind of reason that I thought, okay, I need to get a cat in my life, once I'm at a stable point in I've got a job and I've got this going on. Was actually so there's a cat that lived on my street. I used to live in London, and there was sort of like a neighborhood cat. I believe that he belonged to my neighbors, but he sort of was one of those cats that would just go into everybody's house. And at the time, I was really like not. There's a lot going on in my life at that time. This was right before I moved back to the U.S. where I am now. But this cat started like showing up, and it was kind of at like the worst times, the times when I was like really like I don't know how things are going to go, and this was school stress, relationship stress, all kinds of stuff going on, like visa stress, all kinds of things in my life. And this cat Cosmo, this little black cat, would just like turn up at my flat every once in a while, and he would just like kind of be there, and like it seemed like he just had this like sense of, you know, when things were going wrong. And obviously he wasn't my cat. He belonged to somebody else and was being very well cared for, probably by like multiple people on that street. But he really helped me through that. And then I was sort of like, well, you know, I think I should probably have that like permanently in my life. And so that kind of led to me adopting CokeZero, and of course, you know, having her there, as I was sort of, you know, putting my life back together, starting a new job, and all this stuff is really nice to have her. And she's quite affectionate. She's not particularly aloof. She likes people. She likes when her very favorite time is when people come over to our house for Dungeons and Dragons, because she likes to be the star of the show. She likes to sit. A lot of times she'll actually take a chair, like in the around the table there will be like one extra chair, and she'll like to sit there and just like watch and participate. And she also loves when lots of people are at our house and have their shoes at the entryway, because she really loves to just smell new people's shoes, and enjoys that.
Yeah, part of me's going, that's weird, but I'm thinking, no, that's only weird if it was a human doing that. I think cats are
Right.
allowed to get away with doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, cats can do whatever. It would be very weird if I came over, if my friends came over and I started smelling their shoes when they took them off. That'd be a little weird.
So how long did it take after moving back to the States where you felt, okay, this is the time now to get a forever cat in my life?
I'm trying to think exactly when it must have been about, I think it was about 6 months after I had actually come back.
Okay, so there's a fair amount of time to get in, get settled, and bits and pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, there was a time when I didn't have, you know, a permanent place to live. It was a lot of sort of just, you know, things up in the air, and I didn't know what was going to happen, you know, what kind of job I might be able to get. And then I finally, it all kind of just like fell into place. I was able to, you know, get a job. Things were a little bit more secure. I had a you know, permanent living space. And that was the sort of moment where I was like, okay, I think it's probably time.
And so the adoption process begins, or is it just a case of somebody had a cat and just like, here's a cat? It was an actual adoption going through the system, wasn't it?
We actually did go through funny enough, we'd gone through, we'd sort of been thinking about it at this point for a little bit. And at the time, I don't remember how it worked, but the city shelter in our city has like a little, or it used to have, I think now they just do it through Pet Finder. A lot of shelters have like switched over to those larger platforms. But they had like a little registry online where they'd show pictures of all the different pets that were available for adoption. We're like, you know, we definitely knew that we wanted to adopt slash rescue. So we'd been kind of checking the page every few days to see, you know, like what, if there were cats available, if you know, anybody had come in. And so we ended up going to see in person at one point, and we met this little cat named Ed, who's also feral, actually, kind of like how Blueberry and her siblings were. And he was also a black cat, and he was really, really cute, really sweet, a little skittish. And we were kind of like, well, do we want to adopt Ed? Let's like think on it. We ended up going, I think we went, I think we had gone to like lunch or something. And then we decided at lunch that we were going to adopt him and go back. And by the time we'd gotten back, somebody had already adopted him. And so I was really crushed about that. Because I was like, oh, like I'd started to, you know, envision this cat at my house. And,
Yeah.
I think I was sort of, oh yeah, like actually this was the cat that I wanted. And I feel like I've missed out. But of course, you know, they're getting new cats in who need homes all the time. And then one night, this is a couple weeks later, and I'm also really like, this is not to say that like I'm mad that Ed got adopted, because I'm really happy that, you know, he got he got picked up pretty fast. He didn't have to spend a whole lot of time at the shelter, and that's always great. But selfishly, I'm thinking, oh, this was my cat. And then a few weeks later, I logged on the to look at the pictures and see if anything had come in, and I saw this little picture of her name was Saturn in the shelter. This little cat named Saturn. I was like, this feels right. I don't really know how to explain it, but this like it wasn't to do with I don't really know how to say it, but I was sort of like, oh, this seems like the right time. This seems like the right cat now. I'm gonna go meet them. And so I think my husband is at work that day. So I went to the shelter myself, and we were like, I was, looking around for her, and she had, I guess, just finished her spaying surgery, so she was sort of loopy. But they brought her out and let me meet her, and she was sort of just like very tired. And I was like, all right, that's it. And we adopted her from the city shelter that day, and brought her home.
Hold on, you brought her home, would she still have been like a little bit out of it?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, she was. So she was. It
I
was
feel
funny
like
because
I'm moving. I feel like I'm going somewhere else. Oh, I am going somewhere
I
else.
don't know what's going on. Yeah, so they like packed her up in the little box and sent her home, and she was just sort of like she was really just like out of it. And so we didn't really we kind of just like put her in the room that we were going to use to just isolate her from the dogs, and like, keep her just kind of chilled out for a little bit. And I think that night she started to kind of like sort of come to she was conscious, but she was just sort of out of it and not super responsive for a couple of hours. And then a little bit later we left the house to go get a couple of like just random cat supplies and stuff that we hadn't bought yet. And then came back, and she had already sort of started to come out of her shell. And actually that was the night that we gave her we bought this little grumpy cat toy that looks like the grumpy cat on a little string, and she really liked it at the time. She was having fun playing with it, and it's actually her still to this day. It's her favorite toy. Um, she like carries it whenever people are at our house, or if we're just in the other room or something. That's her way of getting people's attention. Is she'll pick up Grumpy Cat and like walk in, and just like she'll just be like yelling that she's like, I'm coming, I've got my cat, I'm coming. And then drops it at her feet or something. It's very silly, but still her favorite toy even now.
I've been hunting that cat that everybody talks about online because I'm a wrestler. Yeah. Do you think then that she's got this little voice in her head of JR just going, let's get ready to cat things?
I do wonder. I think because sometimes you can kind of see in her, if you're looking at her thinking about attacking Blueberry or something, you can kind of just see that little twinkle in her eyes, and you're just like, what's going on behind those behind those eyes right now? There's like you probably do have like announcers going on or something.
Just waiting for
Like,
that mental
what's the plan?
soundtrack to kick in. I want to hear the
Yeah.
Psycho theme tune right now in my head. That's what it
Yeah.
sounds like. Let's go.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's kind of going on in the back of her head, and then Blueberry has like incomprehensible beeping or something in there. I can't imagine it's anything that like an Earth being could even perceive what's happening in her head.
Blueberry just constantly surprised then when Zero pops up.
She sometimes is surprised. A lot of times she's just too busy doing her own thing. So like I mean, Blueberry is one of those cats that just is like running around for no reason. Her Twitter persona, I don't actually write words on her posts. I just write burr, various iterations of burr, because and this is the case even when we first got her. But she just spends all of her time kind of making this like burr sound and running. Like you'll just hear like brrr, and then like see her like just kind of streak across the room. And that's just like all she does. And I feel like when Coke's trying to stalk her, it's almost like more of a challenge for CokeZero because like Blueberry is just kind of, I mean, she's going to try and catch her when she's stopped running, but it's also just like, when is that going to happen? And when is she going to start up again? You don't actually know when she's going to just take off. And I mean, she's fast too. Um, so yeah, Coke likes to chase her around sometimes. Sometimes Blueberry chases Coke. Actually, Blueberry's best, probably Blueberry's the best at hiding. And she'll just kind of like hide in a shadow and wait to attack CokeZero if she walks by. It's very, very silly little relationship that they have.
I'm just loving the idea now that that brr is actually some alien cat who cannot translate her. It's just like it's a purr, it's a bird, it's a brr, brr, brr. That's close enough. They'll never know the difference. That's it. Yeah. I can blend in perfectly.
This is fine. Cats make weird noises, right?
Of course they do. Which of the two do they both think they're in charge? Have they sorted out that pecking order?
I think CokeZero is definitely in charge. But I mean that doesn't really stop Blueberry from making some mischief and attacking CokeZero every once in a while. But yeah, Coke seems to be the one who kind of dictates when it's time. They like to cuddle when they're not, battling it out. And that Coke kind of seems to be the one who dictates that. She'll kind of like jump up on the chair wherever Blueberry's sitting, and like sometimes she'll even just kind of like sit on her. It's quite funny because of the size discrepancy, but she'll jump up there and start like licking Blueberry's head or something, and it's like, okay, well now it's time to do that. And if Blueberry starts wiggling or doesn't seem to be into it, Coke's like, all right, well, I'm gonna kind of bite you. I'm gonna bite your ear, and then you're gonna be okay with this. And it's like, yeah, that she's usually like, all right, I got the message, and now we're gonna have cuddling time now. Yeah, Coke's definitely in charge. She's also, I think that she thinks she's in charge of the dogs, and the dogs seem to have like they have like a whole separate hierarchy going on. So one of our dogs, Jesse, they're both rescues. Jesse is kind of a terrifying looking creature because when he was a puppy, no one knows exactly kind of what happened to him, but he had been attacked. And so he doesn't have eyes. He has kind of just this lumpy head, with a bunch of scars on it and just no eyes. But you wouldn't know if you put, sunglasses on him or something. He gets around fine. He never really seems to bump into stuff. You wouldn't know if
you put sunglasses
on. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to, if you didn't see that he had like basically no forehead. You wouldn't just have be able to tell.
Yeah, you're going on. Put these sunglasses on. Do you want to be Jake or Elwood? Here you go, Jake. Yeah. You can be Jake today. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he's a little bit older than our other dog, Peanut, who's this tiny little Chihuahua who my husband's friend actually found her in a dumpster, which is very sad. But she's now pampered and doing very well. But they have their own pecking order, and you'd think that the bigger one would be in charge, but it seems like the smaller one is in charge there. But then CokeZero seems to think that she's in charge of Peanut, the smaller Chihuahua. And so a lot of times Peanut will just be sleeping peacefully, like on the couch or something. And Coke likes to just kind of like test her limits, and she'll like hop up on the couch, sneak up on Peanut while she's sleeping, and then just kind of like slap her on the head for no reason. And Peanut kind of gets annoyed and growls or something, but it's just like, I don't know. She seems to just be like testing how far she can go with annoying Peanut. So there's like a power struggle there, but yeah, Coke's definitely in charge of at least the cat side of the house. She's in charge of Blueberry.
There is some very, very good material in here for a Seinfeld cat-like sitcom with two different cats and dogs across the hall, and I don't know. There's somebody in the middle, and he's probably played by Mr. Rogers. I don't know. I'm out of American cultural references now. Sitcom with cats and dogs and Mr. Rogers. I still think that would work, actually.
It might work.
I think that might work. But until that time, we have Zero and Blueberry, and are the dogs online as well, or is it just only the cats can work the internet?
Yeah, I think only the cats can use Twitter. They're the only ones who have figured it out. I think I don't know if it's still up, but I know my partner was running, he was just posting like Instagram pictures of them on an account for a time. I don't know if he's still using it, but yeah, they'll make appearances every once in a while on the cats' Twitters. Usually it's just, Coke talking bad about them, talking about how Peanut smells bad or something like that. But yeah, they'll show up sometimes. But yeah, that's Coke and Blueberry are really inseparable. They I mean, even just when I set up to hop on here and chat with you, they both followed me in here. They're both lying on the cat tree together now. They kind of just like go room to room together all the time. It's kind of funny. They're very I don't know. I think the only time I've seen them in separate rooms has been when we have company over. There's people here. Like I said, Coke loves to be the center of attention, but Blueberry's still got a little bit of that sort of like she's definitely come out of her shell since we adopted her. And she's comfortable with us, but she's kind of skittish around new people. So she usually just kind of hides, in a closet somewhere when people are here. That's the only time that I feel like I ever see them separate.
So where can people follow their adventures online?
CokeZero is at CokeZero Cat on Twitter. She also has an Instagram. I'm really, really bad at updating, but it's the same. It's CokeZero Cat on Instagram as well. And then Blueberry shows up on that Instagram, and then she has her own Twitter account, which is it's BRR like Berber Blueberry. On Twitter as well. So if you don't feel like reading silly cat words or captions like that, Blueberry's there for you. She's got the she's just got the burrs. That's all she writes.
Blueberry's there for you. There we go. Marketing slogan for the sitcom there as well. Just going in this lovely poster. Fantastic. Kira, thank you very much for taking the time to tell us the tale of Zero and Blueberry and some dogs as well. Cat podcast. Dogs. Dog. It's been great to have you on the show. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
And best of health for those four and everybody else over there. We'll have links back up to their Twitter accounts on our website, which is mycatstailpod.com. But until the next show, it's I suppose I have to say brrr instead of goodbye.
Berber to you too.
Yeah, brr. You've been listening to My Cat's Tale, a Spence Media production. Listen to more tales of our perfect pets at mycatstailpod.com and support us on Patreon.